Some of the most destructive weapons available to the Astra Militarum are its colossal super heavy tanks. They can unleash an overwhelming and versatile array of firepower to annihilate anything in their path. They are powered by enormous multi-fueled engines, which form the heart of the machine, grunting with fury as the massive mechanical war machines drive into battle. The drive system of each of these mighty tanks is aided by a ferociously bellicose machine spirit, a remnant of the dark age of technology, which demonstrates aggression and a willingness to fight the enemies of the Emperor. The durability of a super heavy tank is granted by a robust hull design, layered with plates of adamantine steel armour and bristling with a multitude of weapons from its near impenetrable casing. Each of these monstrous machines is equipped with enough firepower to eradicate entire formations of enemies single-handedly, with an array of sponson and hull-mounted armaments. Certain patterns have even greater offensive potential, utilising colossal Titan-class weaponry. The colossal main gun protruding from the turret is consistent across all variants of the super heavy tanks. Some of these fire ultra explosive shells, whereas others emit beams of immolating energy or concentrated storm of mass reactive bolts. Regardless of their payload, these weapons are capable of bringing utter devastation to the most fearsome enemies of the Imperium. Entire regiments of super heavy tanks were known to have been fielded in battle during the Great Crusade. The rumbling of engines rolled like thunder so that the enemies of the Imperium felt their advance long before the armoured wave broke over the horizon. Now, only a handful of Forge Worlds possess the sacred standard template construct required for their construction and maintenance. As such, they cannot be deployed on every one of the Astra Militarum's many war fronts. Only in the most crucial engagements where failure is absolutely unacceptable, and the sheer weight of guardsmen bodies has not yet brought victory, are these steel behemoths unleashed upon the enemy. A single super heavy tank is a dominant presence in an Astra Militarum battle line. As it ploughs relentlessly forward, it lays down a withering path of destruction, while acting as a mobile shield for supporting troops. Most enemy ranks are shattered at range long before it reaches their position, and those unlucky few who are able to maintain their defensive formations are ground to dust under the slab-like plates of its tracks. Witnessing the mighty tank deal out such merciless punishment upon the enemies of the Imperium provides a huge morale boost to nearby guardsmen, and can often turn the tide of battle. Though they face unimaginable horrors, they are often given hope by the vessel of incarnate devastation that fights alongside them. The Baneblade is the most common variant of super heavy tank. Its primary weapon, the fearsome 10-metre long Baneblade cannon, is capable of delivering apocalyptic bombardments at a terrifying range. At close range, it makes effective use of a hull-mounted demolisher cannon, and enemy infantry and Xenos beasts are decimated by its autocannons and multiple heavy bolter turrets. As the Baneblade is such a massive war machine, it requires a crew of 10 guardsmen to function properly. The crew usually consists of a tank commander, a tactical officer, a driver, an adept of the Mechanicus, and an assortment of gunners and loaders. The crew operate the machine within a warren of cramped corridors which are intermeshed across several decks. The interior has been described as having more in common with a fortified command bunker than that of a tank. The Baneblade and its variants are amongst the oldest Imperial tank designs still in use. Created using Dark Age standard template construct technology, it uses many systems that are now unique to its construction. This ancient STC data is limited to only a handful of Forge Worlds, and most of the original Baneblades come from Mars itself. It's claimed that in the past there were whole divisions of Baneblades in the Emperor's service, but today an Imperial army is fortunate to have a company of 3, and more usually only a single Baneblade will be available. This is because there is an immense demand for the Baneblade, both for its highly destructive abilities and survivability, and also for the morale boost seeing such a huge behemoth gives the troops. For these reasons, the millennia has seen a slow but sure increase in the number of counterfeit tanks seeing service in the Imperial army. These Baneblades produced by Forge Worlds eager to secure large military contracts and trade concessions do not incorporate all of the available STC data that is on those from Mars and the other few favoured Forge Worlds. While a true Baneblade uses much more powerful rocket propelled shells in its main battle cannon, A second generation Baneblade, as the Adepts of Mars refer to these tanks, uses only standard ammunition. The original Baneblade design has improved internal armour bracing, greater engine performance and transmission, superior comms and tactical logic engines, and all manner of other secondary systems which are far superior to those of the second generation war machines. There are several variants of Baneblade officially recognised by the Adeptus Mechanicus currently used within the Astra Militarum. The standard template construct chassis of the Baneblade is highly adaptable, and the tech priests have capitalised on this, changing out the tank's standard armaments to make more specialised variants to make them more dominant in a specific battlefield role. One of the most famous variants of the Baneblade is the Shadow Sword, which is equipped with one of the most fearsome primary weapons, the dreaded Volcano Cannon, and is capable of taking down titans at extreme range. Nothing short of the most powerful energy fields can hope to stop a direct hit from one of its blasts. Like the Baneblade, the Shadow Sword uses STC technology, and its production is limited to a few privileged forge worlds. The Shadow Sword's Volcano Cannon is a huge laser powered by capacitors which draw power directly from the tank's engines. The generator and capacitors require constant supervision, and each Shadow Sword is crewed by an engineer, sometimes a member of the Adeptus Mechanicus, or sometimes a highly trained specialist from the Astra Militarum. Their job is to control the power flow from the engine through the generator, as well as keeping the tank running. To draw power, the engine seer must disconnect the engine's main drive and connect the generator in its place. This power is then transferred to the capacitors which hold the titanic energies required for the Volcano Cannon. A single shot will drain the capacitors completely. This requires the vehicle to be stationary, as the engine is disengaged. Once charged, the vehicle can move again, but to recharge the capacitors, the tank must halt. The Shadow Sword was developed as a Titan killer. Its massive gun is a Titan-class weapon usually equipped to Warhound Titans, and is capable of severing an enemy Titan's arm or leg. For this reason, Shadow Swords are only made on forge worlds which raise Titan legions. They are deployed to support Astra Militarum regiments which are likely to be faced with enemy Titans. Each Shadow Sword constructed on forge worlds that have the original STC are logged and registered with Mars, and it's given its own identity number and name, often painted on the vehicle by its crew. The Magma Cannon mounted on the Doomhammer, the sister tank of the Shadow Sword, is a smaller version of the Volcano Cannon. Though it has a reduced range and lacks the immense firepower of the Volcano Cannon, its compact size allows for troops to be transported within its hull. When a Shadow Sword is knocked out, the salvaged chassis is rebuilt, and new weapons are added to create the Storm Sword, as troops have christened it. This is common practice with other vehicles such as the Thunderer, and many unique variants of other Astra Militarum vehicles. While such conversions are unofficial and frowned upon by the conservative upper echelons of the Adeptus Mechanicus, Astra Militarum commanders facing the enemy on the ground must take a more pragmatic view. Any vehicle that can fulfill a battlefield role, while being a conversion of the Shadow Sword, can and will be utilised. The Storm Sword Super Heavy tank is built specifically for sieges and street fighting. Whilst the Shadow Sword excels at long range, and the Baneblade is an all-rounder equally at home in open fields or in street fighting, the Storm Sword lends its weight and firepower to troops at close quarters. The main armament's restricted range leaves it dangerously exposed in open terrain, and most commanders will only commit them into battle in the environment they were built for, in the heart of a city fight where the fighting is at its most fierce and intense, leading the attack, crunching through the rubble and smashing through walls. Each massive siege cannon shell holds enough explosives to flatten a building with a single shot. Gunners are taught to aim at the ground floor of a building with the intention of causing the entire building above to collapse. The siege gun barrel has a restricted elevation which reduces the weapon's maximum range. This is compensated for by the shell's integral rocket propulsion system. The Storm Sword siege gun fires huge rocket propelled siege shells, each weighing in excess of 180 kilograms. Exhaust vents on either side of the gun barrel allow the gas discharged by the rocket engine to escape during firing. The sheer size of the shells limits the vehicle's ammunition racks to holding just 20 rounds. Due to the weight of each shell, the vehicle's loader is aided by an automated loading tray, which is hand cranked to move a shell into the barrel. This is a time-consuming process, and the Storm Sword cannot maintain a high rate of fire. In addition to the main gun, a Storm Sword is also formidably equipped with secondary weapons for combat in the close confines of a city fight. Turret-mounted heavy flamers are used to clear buildings and rubble of hidden enemy infantry, driving them into the open to become targets for the heavy bolters and supporting infantry. Well adapted to its role, the Storm Sword, while still rare, has earned a place within the Astra Militarum's arsenal, and it is possible that some Forge Worlds have started to produce them in limited numbers. The Hellhammer is the sister tank of the Storm Sword, and both are designed for use in siege and urban warfare, their respective cannons making a mockery of defensive barricades. The Hellhammer makes use of a smaller main cannon combined with a hull-mounted demolisher cannon, which it can fire as it advances forwards, allowing it to put out a more consistent rate of fire. The Storm Sword siege cannon alone provides reliable devastation and is better suited for destroying key reinforced fortifications. A few other variants to mention include the Banehammer. It is the ultimate equaliser when facing a highly mobile enemy force. The massive shells from its tremor cannon are primed to explode only once they have been embedded below the ground. The sundering effect of their detonations makes a rapid redeployment impossible. In a similar fashion, the Banesword's Quake Cannon can pulverise enemy armour and reduce the fortifications to rubble. The Stormlord, on the other hand, is almost entirely dedicated to troop transport. Its cavernous bay is capable of carrying up to 40 guardsmen, while its Vulcan Megabolter makes it highly potent against enemy infantry and light vehicles alike. Each super heavy tank is a monument to the destructive power of the Astra Militarum. They are the Emperor's undying wrath cast in steel, holy weapons with the power to obliterate anything in their path. Few commanders have earned the honour to field one of these glorious relics in battle, and fewer enemies can withstand the destructive power.